Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 6:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have announcements for all of our upcoming meetings and one proclamation. Regular council meetings are scheduled for Tuesday, September 20th at 6:30 p.m. and Tuesday, October 4th at 6:30 p.m. We have a work session scheduled for Tuesday, September 13th at 6:30 p.m. And we're in the throes of budgets. And so we have budget meetings scheduled. Tonight, we're adopting the maximum tax levy. We're holding that meeting tonight. And then we will have department budget presentations, and that will be Tuesday, October 25th at 6:30 p.m. Then we have a budget work session scheduled for Tuesday, November 15th at 6:30 p.m. and another budget work session scheduled for Tuesday, November 29th at 6:30 p.m. And then we adopt the budget and the levy on Tuesday, December 6th at 6:30 p.m. Everyone is invited to join us at these meetings, and if you wish to speak, I'm happy to recognize you, and so that you can share your remarks with us. We do have a proclamation this evening, and it's one that we're very happy to proclaim, and so I'm going to do it from that side of the dais. Members of the council, staff, and members of the community of Burnsville, UTC Aerospace Systems celebrates 60th anniversary of Rosemount Engineering, 1956 to 2016. In January of 1956, Rosemount Aerospace was founded, and since those humble beginnings has become a recognized worldwide leader in the aerospace industries. Whereas Rosemount Aerospace, currently doing business as UTC Aerospace Systems, opens its operation in Burnsville in October of 1981 and expanded headquarters in Burnsville in 1985. And whereas Rosemount Aerospace has made additional expansions in the city, including a world-class state-of-the-art advanced icing wind tunnel facility in 2011 and a MEMS, mechanical systems fabrication facility in 2012. Whereas Rosemount Aerospace products significantly contribute to the improved aircraft operation to the safety of the flying public. And whereas Rosemount Aerospace Innovation has created over 200 patents, and Rosemount Aerospace continues to be the largest engineering and manufacturing company and one of the 5 largest employers in Burnsville. Whereas Rosemount Aerospace has partnered with the city of Burnsville since 1992 to provide soccer fields for the local youth. And whereas Rosemount Aerospace has fostered many community improvements such as STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, education to the youth of Burnsville and surrounding communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the year 2016 as Rosemount Aerospace 60th anniversary and call upon the resident of Burnsville to celebrate this milestone of this valuable business in our community. Proclaim this 6th day of September 2016. And I believe Susie Arhus is here to receive this. Susie, you want to come forward, please? And members of the council, if you'd come for a photo op. Susie, it is just a privilege to be working with you and to proclaim the year 2016. Now, everybody needs to understand that it is now UTC Aerospace, and we're proud of the work that you all are doing, and it just puts us on the map and also in outer space, because that's what Burnsville does. So everything that is going on at UTC is just marvelous, and we're just so happy to be a part of it, and I'll be there for the big celebration, and so happy to do this proclamation. Thank you
Can I
for
also
being
invite
here.
Ashley up too?
Oh, Ashley, please come up. Ashley's been part of helping us to
Yes.
make sure we have all the right wordings. Come, Ashley.
Yes, hello.
Yeah. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you. So here we go.
All right, everybody smile on 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do one more on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience to address the council on an item that is not on the printed agenda and not an application form that will be coming before us at a future date. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council? Yes, sir.
I'd like to say something.
I think you're on the agenda.
Oh, am I on the agenda?
Yes, you
I
are,
didn't know
sir.
if I was or not.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
you are. I'll make sure that you speak.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
9?
Number 8.
yeah, okay.
I don't have a copy of the agenda, so I'm sorry.
No problem. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council? Please come forward. Are you is it an item that's on the agenda? Or is it yes?
I don't know if it's on the agenda. It's about 150th Street, the project that was done this summer.
That's on the agenda. Okay, that's on the agenda. Item that is not on the agenda and not an application form. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Seeing no one, we will move on. The next item is for emergency items only, and this is additions to the final agenda. Ms. Johnston, are there any additions to the final agenda?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Members of the council?
None.
Okay, thank you. And then we move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item on the consent agenda can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item on the consent agenda to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? An item on the consent agenda. Ms. Johnston?
None from staff, Madam Mayor.
Members of the council? Members of the council, I am going to be pulling G, and the only reason for pulling G is so that we can make sure our residents down in Southwest Burnsville understands what's going on and the changes. So if I may have a motion for the balance, please.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Sherry makes the motion, second by Councilmember Keeley. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Item G is to approve a joint powers agreement for administrative services related to municipal sewer and services and pump maintenance program. And this is mostly down in Southwest Burnsville, and it's for private services. Ms. Faulkner, what's new? Because they're going to experience something new, and what will continue in terms of their relationship with the city.
Sure, Madam Mayor, members of the council, members of the public. This item is for the city to enter into an agreement with Dakota County. Under the county and state and city ordinances, for that matter, relating to private septic systems, they are required to be pumped every 3 years. We, as an entity that oversees that, are required to track, monitor, send out letters, et cetera, to make sure that's being done. The county does this on a much larger scale because they have a lot more septic systems to manage than we do. So it is a cost-saving measure on behalf of the city to enter into this contract, to have the county do it. They have the database, they have the structure all in place. So what the public will see is, instead of those reminders to pump their septic systems coming from the city, they will be coming from Dakota County. The rules are the same, it's just who's generating the letter and tracking it.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to make sure that our residents hear, that when they see a letter from the county and they think, well, what is this? You know, it's usually from the city. I want them to know that this is the change and that they should address that letter.
right.
So that's the only reason I wanted it to be on television, so if they're watching, they now know. Okay. Yes, may I have a motion, please, to approve the joint powers agreement?
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keely makes the motion, second by Councilmember Coughlin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. We now move on to the regular agenda, and the first item on the regular agenda is a resolution approving the application and ordinance granting a cable franchise to Frontier Communications of Minnesota, Inc. Presenting this evening is Marty Dahl, our communications coordinator, and I believe our attorney, Mr. Voss, is going to be speaking or not speaking.
He'll be here to answer any
Yes.
questions that are beyond my legal expertise.
Okay. And then we do have the president of Frontier Communication, Ms. Becky Potts, who is also going to be speaking this evening. So welcome, and we're looking forward to this new partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Dahl.
Mayor, members of the council. As part of this item tonight, you're going to be asked to consider two actions. The first is a resolution approving the cable franchise application for Frontier Communications, and the second is actually an ordinance granting Frontier Communications of Minnesota a cable franchise in Burnsville. I have a presentation that will highlight some of the highlights from both of these items. Both the full resolution and the full ordinance were included in your council background packet, as well as some other background documentations. And as you mentioned, Bob Volz with Kennedy and Graven, who is our cable attorney, is here to answer any questions you might have, as well as Ms. Potts from Frontier to speak on behalf of the applicant. So as some background, in April of this year, council approved issuing a notice of intent to accept franchise applications. This was at the request of both Frontier and CenturyLink, who are interested in providing cable television service in Burnsville. In May, council held the required public hearing as part of this process and considered the applications from both companies. An opportunity for written comment was also extended for 30 days beyond the night of that public hearing, and as was stated in your background, no comments were received, no additional comments were received. And at that same meeting, council also directed staff to proceed with the negotiations for a cable franchise with both companies. So the first part of the item that for your consideration tonight is to formally accept Frontier's application for cable franchise. That application outlines the company's legal, technical, and financial qualifications as a potential cable service provider. Mr. Vos has provided a more detailed report on those qualifications in your background, but in general, staff and legal counsel believe that the application is complete and uncontested. From a legal standpoint, Frontier is already authorized to do business in Minnesota, and the company has or will make all appropriate filings and preparations prior to offering their cable service. They also represent that they will adhere to all applicable law in the cable field. From a technical perspective, Frontier is certified by the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission to provide telephone service in Minnesota, and they are currently one of the largest incumbent carriers. They or their affiliates are also authorized to operate cable systems in 35 markets across the country, so they have experience in the cable world. They have identified an experienced management team and a state-of-the-art system to deliver service here in Minnesota as well. And then finally, from a financial perspective, Frontier Communications, the parent company for Frontier, reflected fourth quarter revenue of $1.4 billion in operating income and an operating income of $182 million for fiscal year 2015. They represent that no unique funding sources or borrowing are necessary for deployment of their cable service here, and they have also agreed to franchise terms requiring payment of a 5% franchise fee, as well as specified PEG funding, as well as other provisions for security, insurance, indemnification, etc. So if council does accept the application, you'd then be asked to consider granting a franchise. Staff and our legal counsel have spent the last several months negotiating franchise with Frontier, and some of the highlights are included in these slides. First, the term. The term would be for 5 years with an auto renewal option for an additional 5 years on behalf of the city to auto renew if Frontier is complying with its franchise requirements. Its service commitment area, this is one I think of particular note. Frontier would be serving only its current telephone service area, which is essentially southern Burnsville. My next slide has a map that kind of shows the service area. And it's also important to note that as part of that commitment, they've agreed to maintain the system in accordance to state law, which requires that service area to be significantly built out within 5 years. So you can see it's a little tough to see on the screen, but this would essentially be Frontier's service area, anything south of the pinkish purple line there in Burnsville. So you'll see it's not a nice straight clean line across, but it comes out to approximately half of the city, the southern portion of the city.
Mr. Dahl, when you look at this service area, and this is about cable distribution, does laws of the public utility allow Frontier to move into Comcast territory? Because Comcast is all over the
It
city.
wouldn't necessarily be Comcast territory, and Bob, you can correct me if I'm speaking out of turn here, but CenturyLink is
CenturyLink,
the
the
other
north.
telephone provider in Northern Territory. I don't think there's anything that legally prohibits them from entering each other's territory. It's just a matter of they typically don't do that.
Okay,
Is that correct?
That's correct.
but the law doesn't prohibit them from entering. So all I'm talking about is trying to understand the competition
Sure.
in terms of, because you and I both know that we get emails and phone calls from people asking, can I have a different provider than
Correct.
what we have now?
Correct.
And so depending on what the competition is, at least our residents and businesses have a choice.
Right. And tonight is about Frontier, but
Yes.
we do
No.
anticipate that CenturyLink will also be working with us to negotiate a
Yes.
cable franchise for the northern part of the city in the coming months. So
Yes.
we will hopefully have that competition, or the opportunity for that competition for the
Okay.
entire city.
Yeah. But when it comes to cable, just so everybody understands, they can move into each other's territory, but not in the telephone territorial area.
I believe they could go into each other's territory for any of those things. They just tend to not do that.
Okay. Sort of a gentleman or
Yes.
agreement.
So anyway, continuing on with some of the highlights for the franchise term. Customer service in the franchise would meet or exceed the FCC standards. They have agreed to a 5% of gross television revenue franchise fee. They've also agreed to a 2.5% of gross television revenue for public education and government television support. They have agreed to maintain the city's 6 current public access channels that are offered to cable providers and offer them in high definition. They will have agreed to work with the city on providing fiber connections to any new or unconnected government sites within their service territory. And they've also agreed to offer free subscriber cable service to unserved government buildings within their service area. Those are some of the primary highlights, but then in addition, some of the less exciting things, although important, they've also agreed to all the other terms which the incumbent provider operates: construction standards, use of right-of-way, safety, those types of things. So, with that, in conclusion, because staff believes that Frontier has provided a complete application, that the negotiated franchise is beneficial to the city and its residents, and because additional cable providers would provide a competitive choice in Burnsville, staff recommends that council accept the application and grant Frontier a cable franchise. And with that, both Mr. Vos and I would be available for questions, and I know that Ms. Potts has some remarks for the council as well.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or Mr. Vos? Thank you very much. Ms. Potts, welcome. And you'll be speaking at this microphone. Thank you so.
Exciting day for Frontier.
And it's an exciting day for the city of Burnsville. Lots of
Yay.
real
Yay.
great stuff.
Well, my name is Becky Potts, and I'm president of the national region for Frontier Communications, and I'm very proud to be with all of you today. And I'm so glad, and please let me just thank Mayor Couts and also all of you in the council, Keely, Sherry, Coughlin, and Wynn. We really appreciate all the great comments and all the great work and the partnerships between the communities. Thank you very much. Our thanks also goes to Marty Dahl and Dana Hardy of the Burnsville City team for their hard work and for taking care of all the necessary steps in moving our franchise quickly along. We appreciate the work of Bob Voss, the attorney representing the city in the process as well. Frontier has proudly had the regional headquarters in the city of Burnsville for 35 years,
Yes.
which is pretty exciting. It's only fitting that Burnsville be the center of the next exciting chapter of our company, our employees, and the customers that we serve. If the application is approved, Burnsville will be the first franchise in the state of Minnesota for Frontier, a fact that would be a point of pride for our local employees and, quite frankly, me personally. This follows many successful partnerships with the city of Burnsville over the years and in many different decades. Vantage TV is an incredibly exciting development in our company. We believe the features are going to blow our customers away. First, it has 100% digital picture and 4K ultra high definition. It also has a total home DVR with the ability to record up to 6 shows at one time and view on any other TV in the home with a set-top box. It also has it's Wi-Fi enabled. Set-top boxes allowing customers to place TV wherever they would like in their home. Also, instant channel change and fast navigation through our interactive program guide and video on demand. You won't even believe it, it's amazing. The ability to see up to 5 channels at once with multi-view. So sports junkies, home enthusiasts can look at all those programs all at one time. And I'm pretty excited about that part. And channel peaks, it maintains full screen viewing while peeking into other programming. Decide if you want to watch it or not. There are, of course, other features, but those are the highlights that we think is really going to grab, surprise, and delight our customers. In terms of timing, I'm sure you're all wondering that, we expect they'll be able to begin offering service throughout a pretty broad footprint of the city within the next couple of weeks. You won't see a lot of advertising at the beginning or promotions as we continue to ramp up. We want to make sure it's right. We're doing a lot of friendlies and things in many of our homes to make sure that that it's right. We don't want to bring out a product unless we've tested it and really make sure that it really works beautifully in the city. So we'll be going slowly and steady at this first juncture, but we should be able to offer it in the next couple of weeks. I will add that there has been an incredible amount of engineering and work that has taken place throughout our central offices to make that a reality. You've probably seen a lot of our trucks all over town getting ready for the event. So we've been working around the clock to upgrade our network and make it what we call Vantage Ready. It's a huge undertaking, and I am very proud of our team's accomplishments in this area. Finally, I will just add that, again, I am very proud to bring competition and choice to Burnsville. This market means a lot to us personally, and we're thrilled to make it the first place that Vantage will shine. I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you all.
Thank you. We really appreciate your coming in and speaking to us, Ms. Potts.
You bet. Thank
And
you
I
all.
look forward to continuing to see you and to work with you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
To you and your team. Yes. Members of the council, any questions, any thoughts, any comments? Yes, Councilmember Keeley.
Just a couple of comments. I share your excitement. Thank you to Frontier for making this big investment into Burnsville, being the first, which, as a mature city, we don't get to be the first at a lot of things. Really, I'm in my day job, which is marketing. I follow the industry quite closely, and it really does come down for me. I'm thrilled that our consumers are going to have a choice now for the first time. This is a watershed event in this industry. It's been coming in various forms for quite some time. I'm really thrilled because, quite frankly, competition, as we all know, always results in the very best, lowest cost, and most innovative service delivery to customers. So I think our city and our residents and our businesses in your trade area are the big winners. And a big thank you to Marty, Dana, Heather, the entire staff for many, many months of working on this project. It's a big deal to bring a franchise agreement of this size to us tonight to consider. So I'm really excited for our citizens to now have an option. They have options, and it's only going to get better. So thank you very much to you and Frontier.
Any other comments, thoughts? Okay. Again, to Frontier and to our staff, to Marty, Bob, and Ms. Hardy, thank you so much. Wonderful work with Frontier and bringing very quickly. I mean, we just started this negotiation in the spring, and here we are voting on a contract and a resolution. So thank you very much for all of the hard work, Mr. Dahl. Members of the council, it is a wonderful time. I mean, this morning it was opening the new high school. Today, this evening, it's a new franchise for our consumers so that they can have choice. And it's great. So everything is looking good. I think a motion is in order for both the resolution and the ordinance to grant the Frontier, the communications cable franchise.
It'd be a pleasure to make a motion to approve.
Those two.
Second.
Yes, there's a motion by Councilmember Keeley, second by Councilmember Coughlin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank
And good evening, and thank you so much for coming in. Thank you. Yes. The next item is item number 6. Item number 6 is a public hearing, and this is to approve an Sunday on-sale liquor license for Black Diamond, Inc., doing business as Black Diamond at 15400 Buck Hill Road. And Ms. Collins, you're presenting this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. We do have an application this evening from Black Diamond Incorporated, and this is to replace previously known as Tucker's at Buck Hill Ski Resort. The license should be contingent upon approval of all the investigations, approval from the state, and submission of any documents and fees that are still outstanding. I'm told that Mr. Ryan McGonigal is available for any questions, and this is a public hearing. I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Collins? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the council on this item? Yes, please come forward and give us your name and address, and welcome.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. I stand here, my name is Ryan McGonigal, and I represent Black Diamond Incorporated. It's a corporation my wife and I have started recently. We got the opportunity from the new owners of Buck Hill Ski and Snow. We were recruited from our first restaurant in Rosemont to come out and entertain the possibility of doing a year-round restaurant here in Burnsville at the Buck Hill location. We said we'd never open a second restaurant again because the first one was so much work but so rewarding. But after 5 years, we're going to an opportunity at Buck Hill in the city of Burnsville that we didn't want to pass up. So we have worked well hand in hand with the new owners and the new vision of Buck Hill Ski and Snow Resort, which is a year-round vision. It's a vision that's in play. It's getting worked on every day, and we're part of that. We're going to be a year-round operating restaurant. We'll open every day for lunch at 11 o'clock. We'll be open for dinner every day, 7 days a week, year-round. The ski hill themselves, as many of you may know, is expanding to a year-round operation with a few of their runs and their Nev class from Italy that's getting installed here in the next couple of weeks. So we have a 200-seat on-site banquet hall, and then we also have taken over the former Tucker's. The name of the new restaurant itself is called Black Diamond, and then the catering entity of it is Black Diamond at Buck Hill. I own, along with my wife, Las Tortillas Mexican restaurant in the city of Rosemont. We've been there very happily and worked with the city council and mayor there for the last 5 years. It's been a great pleasure to be a part of that and to have my own restaurant. I'm a chef by trade. I will be the chef at Black Diamond, as I have my best friend and chef is going to operate Las Tortillas for us. So with our Mexican flair that we do at Las Tortillas, we're going to bring a little of that to Burnsville. It'll be Mexican cuisine with American-style barbecue twist to it. So we're looking to grow into a larger menu as we get closer to the ski season. But again, we'll be opening year-round and then doing customized banquets. I'd also like to take this time, if I could, to thank Tina Zink from licensing. I've not met her personally, but she was a great asset for us and very helpful and it was a really nice introduction to working with the city of Burnsville. So if I can pass that on for her. Year-round, we're looking to employ approximately 30 to 40 employees. In the season, get as close to 45 to 55 for those 4 or 5 months. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McGonigal, thank you so much for your decision to say, well, I think I can do another restaurant. So, but I've heard good things about the work that you do and the cuisine in Rosemount. So you're bringing some of that to Burnsville.
Yes.
But you're going to have a little twist with the barbecue thing.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. And it's going to be, I think this is the first time that they're going to open all year and also have lunch and dinner.
Correct.
Yes.
And even opening early on Saturdays and Sundays during the ski season.
Okay, very good. Breakfast on?
Yes, correct, 9 a.m.
Yes, because they're very early over when it's winter.
Yep, correct.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any questions for Mr. McGonigal? Yes, Councilmember Keeley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been going to Buck Hill a long time, as a lot of people have. When I met my wife several years ago, she hooked me into ski racing up there, so we're regulars 3 or 4 days a week. And it seems to me that chicken strips, burgers, fries, pizza, and beer are common, heavily ordered items after a ski race when you're outside, and sometimes bitter cold, you get really hungry. So I'm curious what on your menu under that barbecue header, along with your Mexican, which I'm sure is going to be welcomed and enjoyed, as we know that's a cuisine that is extremely popular today, that you're going to bring to the menu up there.
Well, the American classics will stay.
Okay.
We're not going to ruffle too many, we say old-timer vibe
Yeah.
over there. So we'll go slow with that, but we'll have an extended kids menu. We'll have some of the fried items, but more specifically, we'll do like a guajillo pulled pork on the barbecue side, smoke whole briskets, do like a ancho crusted, brisket tacos, make our own sweet bread. We make all of our own barbecue sauce from scratch. So
Nice.
it's a scratch
Very good.
kitchen. I'm a chef by trade, and that's kind of our style. So, and then we also grow into it. We do a lot of herbal specials. We talk to the clientele. What do you guys want? What do skiers want?
Yeah.
I'm inside cooking. I don't know exactly what you're looking for, but you can smell my pit smoking outside, that kind of thing. We'll get you
Wonderful.
going. But
Well, the Ski Challenge League, which is a heavy user up there, I don't know if you've met with the owners yet, but I'm sure they've got some great ideas and feedback for you.
yeah, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you let everybody know what the cuisine is going to be at Black Diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on TV now,
One-
and it's going to be running.
One follow-up, I mean,
Yes.
Madam Mayor. I'm very familiar with what Black Diamond means. Did you choose that name specifically because of
Skiing.
the challenge of a slope that is a black diamond or a double black diamond?
Yeah, actually, it was just one of those reasons why we fell into the spot. As I went over there and walked out, I grew up in the city of Apple Valley, went to school in Rosemont. I've lived in Lakeville the last 15 years. So I grew up at Buck Hill skiing as a kid. Left for culinary school and never got back on the slopes. I was trying to cook for a living. Until last year when I brought my 10-year-old daughter, my oldest. I have a 10 and a 6-year-old. And so we went and did a snowboard training day and fell in love with it. And so went back, took a look at the space, and instantly came up with a name, instantly came up with a menu, instantly came up with a logo. This is our catering logo that we use on the catering side, a little more formal, a little more Buck Hill forward. We have more of a trendier youth logo to the restaurant side of it. But Black Diamond Catering is a catering company I created 7-8 years ago as I worked at the Hastings Country Club and did off-premise catering for them through there. So I tied my old original company that I went with the new one, and now we have a new goal.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
It was in there.
Yeah, like all the fresh stuff,
Yeah,
rather than the
absolutely. From
fried
scratch.
stuff.
Wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve. Oops.
Second.
Councilmember Keely makes a motion, second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much, and good luck, and we'll see you out at Black Diamond. The next item is also a public hearing, and this is to approve an off-sale liquor license for TJM Enterprise doing business as MGM Wine and Spirits at 1012 County Road 42. Ms. Collins is presenting. Ms. Collins, our city clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. Mr. Terry Maglich with TJM Enterprises LLC is resubmitting an application for this off-sale liquor license. Mr. Maglich company previously owned and operated the MGM there on County Road 42. It was transferred over to Stone Lake 1 LLC back in February 2015, and now they are taking this property back again. Since it's been so recent that TJM Enterprises has owned this, the investigation on the principals involved was minimal to conduct, and the license should be contingent upon all the necessary documents and payments being submitted and approval from the state. Mr. Maglich should be here for any questions. This is a public hearing. I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Collins? Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the item? Mr. Maglich? Welcome.
Back.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, staff, my name is Terry Maglich. I own TJM Enterprises LLC, and I'm here to answer any questions you have and respectfully ask for your approval of the license.
Thank you, Mr. Maglich. We know you so well, and you've done very good business here in Burnsville, and you've always been a great business owner and also corporate citizen to the city. Thank you. Yeah. Any questions for Mr. Maglich?
No.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the council? Anyone else? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Sherry makes the motion, second by Councilmember Nguyen. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. The next item is a public hearing, and it's to approve an on-sale Sunday on-sale liquor license for Patera Inc., doing business as Junior Sports Cafe, located at 1996 Highway 13. Ms. Collins is presenting. Ms. Collins, our city clerk. Ms. Collins.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council. This is our last liquor license public hearing for the evening, and this is for Patera Incorporated, doing business as Junior Sports Cafe. They've submitted their applications. The license should be contingent upon receipt of all the necessary documents and payments, and contingent upon the approval of the investigation and approval from the state. Mr. Michael and Janice Patera are available for any questions. Also, Mr. James Reyes of Juniors would like to address the council. This is a public hearing. I stand for any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Collins? Thank you. This is a public hearing. Mr. Reyes, you wanted to speak. Yes. This is the time for you to speak on this item. And then if anybody else, if Mr. Patera would like to address us as well, it'd be great. But Mr. Reyes?
I don't think Mr. Patera was
Going to speak?
anticipating me talking here. But, yeah, Mr. Patera is the one who bought Juniors from my son. I'm here actually to, in behalf of my son. My name is James Reyes Sr. My son is James Reyes Jr. And we have a third one, James Reyes III, and he's 5 years old. But anyway, what prompted me, first of all, I want to thank you for letting me speak, city council members and mayor. What prompted me to make this presentation was a couple of Fridays ago. I'm also an investor at Rag Sports Cafe. We're part of a group of investors that open Rags, and we're also tied in with some Mexican restaurants throughout the cities, about 20 of them. And what prompted me was a couple of Fridays ago, a Burnsville citizen, lady / mother, hockey mother. And she went to our table. I was having communication with one of my managers discussing promotions, and she came up and, could I interrupt you a second? And I said, absolutely. And she was asking for support for the Burnsville hockey, which we answered. We answered her quickly, said, yes, what can we do for you? So we're going to put an ad, they're going to advertise, and we had to pay our donation or fee for the ad. And I told her, I said, we've always supported the city of Burnsville for years, because my son owns Juniors in Burnsville across the street here. I said, oh, yes. I've been there, and wonderful restaurant. But Burnsville Hockey Pool Tabs is no longer there. No, they are not. And that was a decision my son made. He wanted to try a new pool tabs because there was issues there. I said, yes, some of the issues was Burnsville junior employees were involved in a theft or missing funds from the pool tabs. And that took me back, and I said, so you really don't know the results of that investigation, do you? I says, no, that's just what I know, that Juniors was involved. I said, well, I believe you can look in the internet and get information regarding of the results of that investigation. The city of Burnsville Police Department did a heck of a job, wonderful job in investigating that. They called my son, they called me, and we gave him information. So the results are, I told her that Junior was not involved. It's a whole different matter. I don't want to bring up names or members of that deal, but I'm here to clear the air that my son's restaurant, my family, and all the employees of Juniors Burnsville are not part of that.
Yes.
It's been resolved. Anyone can inquire with the police department and get information. And I'm here just to clear that. There's a new owner that's taken over Juniors, and I want to make sure that that doesn't get to him, that there was issues there. I want him to feel comfortable, and we were comfortable as well, and still are with the city of Burnsville, the Burnsville Hockey. I mean, we had them there for 3 years until an issue happened, so it's not like there was conflict.
Yeah.
We supported them for 3 years, and we support Metro 8 at Rax, which does a wonderful business. And you never know, maybe we'll do business with the members we're doing business now at Juniors in Burnsville at Rax, or the Burnsville Hockey at Rax. Right now it's Metro 8 out of Bloomington. But things go around, competition is good, so we'll always talk. And there's always possibilities of change in the future. But I just want to clear the air of that on Juniors.
Okay, very good. And we do understand that none of the employees of Juniors were a party to any of the losses of funds.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Yes, we appreciate your clearing the air. Okay, Mr. Patera, did you want to speak, sir?
Madam Mayor, City Council, thanks for having us. My name is Michael Patera, my wife Janice, and just wanted to introduce ourselves to the City Council, and very excited and looking forward to operating our first endeavor into the restaurant business in terms of ownership here in Burnsville.
And you're going to have the same cuisine, or are you going to add your own twist to it?
We're going to add our own twist to it. I grew up in an Italian family and been in the restaurant business, grew up in the business, been in it my whole life. So we're going to pull a lot of different things from a lot of different areas. But basically we want to be a casual, family-friendly, full-service restaurant.
Okay. So it'll be Italian with some American cuisine, or what is the concept?
Well, the concept right now is still under development. We plan on renaming in the next 30 days or so.
Okay, to give you your own identity?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So in the meantime, we're doing some redecorating. We're finalizing logos and we're rolling out a new menu this week, but that'll be kind of a preface to what we'll see in October.
Okay. Ms. Collins, do we have to, because it's, the license is going to be under doing business as Junior's Cafe, does it get changed when they have a new name? Yeah. Do they have to come through us again or not? Mr. Jamnik? No, it's just an administrative change. Okay,
Okay,
just so
good.
that you understand the process.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So
So-
I should contact then Tina?
Yes, yes,
At
and
that
that'll,
time?
yeah, when you have a name change, so
Okay.
that it's reflected on your license.
Sure, okay. Tina, by the way, has been super
Yeah.
helpful, so I did want to mention her too,
Yeah.
and thanks. for
Very
that,
good.
So,
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Patera?
Welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
We look forward to experiencing your cuisine at the new place.
We look
Yeah.
forward to seeing you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Councilmember Coughlin makes the motion, second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, and the motion carries. Good luck
Thank you very much.
to juniors and to Black Diamond. We appreciate the new business, and we look forward to experiencing what your cuisines are. We now move on to item number 9. Item number 9, members of the council and the public. This is a continued public hearing from August 16. And this was a resolution to order the project, approve the plans and specifications, and ordering the advertisements of bids for Phase 1 of the Lady Bird Lane Street Improvement Project. Mr. Peterson, our city engineer, is going to give us just an update so people understand what it is that we did 2 weeks ago, and this is a continued public hearing.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, members of the council. As the mayor stated, it's continued. The reason was it just didn't appear on the final agenda, so it's an administrative issue with that. I will, as we described, the public hearing was opened and continued last meeting. We recommend taking any testimony and then closing the public hearing, and then approving the resolution, if that is your desire. This is the only slide I have besides the public hearing one on this one. But basically, for the audience, this is to, in 2017 and maybe early 2018 would be improving Lady Bird Lane from DuPont Avenue down to this location. And then if we can get the same grant funding, we would continue the project of reconstruction of Lady Bird Lane in this area in 2018/2019. So that's the general project concept. So with that, I would recommend just continuing the public hearing, taking any testimony, closing it, and then you know how to
And
do all
then-
that stuff.
Okay, very good. This is a continued public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Sherry makes the motion, second by Councilmember Coughlin. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, and the motion carries. Thank you. The next is item 10. Item 10 is also a public hearing, and this is a resolution certifying the assessments for 2016 street reconstruction and reclamation improvements. Mr. Peterson, our city engineer, is presenting. This is now the Ryan Show.
All right, thank you very much, and we'll do the best we can to get you out here as quickly as possible. But we have, we'll be having the street reconstruction and reclamation, street rehabilitation, heart of the city, O&M, and miscellaneous assessment public hearings. So there'll be, let me first make one introduction. I got Brian Connolly here, our assistant city engineer, who does a great job of getting these projects through and overseeing all the construction. So he is here if we have specific questions on a construction item that I cannot answer. And then, so that's my introduction. We'll quickly review the process, and then for anyone watching, there's 4 separate public hearings as shown on here. So if you're here for the second, third, or fourth one, please don't come up at the first one. You will most certainly get a chance to discuss all 4 of these different projects. So for the street improvement process, in April of 2015, the council ordered a study. We completed survey work and preliminary plans. In January this year, we had a neighborhood meeting, took notes from the adjacent property owners. We completed our study, completed our plans, and then in March, the council had a public hearing where we considered ordering the improvements. They all moved forward, bid the project. April, council awarded contracts for the work. We held a neighborhood meeting for the reconstruction and reclamation projects in April. Construction started on many of the areas in May. In August, we mailed out letters for special assessments. We are right here in September for the actual hearing on special assessments where they're considered being certified. Should they be certified, there's 30 days to pay them in full, or they'd be financed over a period of years. And then some of the areas are already substantially complete, others have some work left in them, but we expect substantial completion by October this year. So with that, we'll start the 2016 street reconstruction and reclamation projects 16-101 and 103. There's 5 different areas. The West Buck Hill area has both reconstruction and reclamation, along with Chateau Lynn area. Highland Forest only has street reconstruction, and then the Wood Park area and Maple Island Road area both have only street reclamation. What is street reconstruction and reclamation? They both have the same new pavement and gravel base construction. The difference is in reconstruction, there's more subgrade below the gravel work that's done. All the projects get the same pavement sections, all brand new from the gravel on up. In street reconstruction, we replace all the curb. In street reclamation, only spot curb is replaced where it's damaged or necessary to remove and replace. We remove and replace any sidewalk that's damaged and make American with Disability Act repairs, and have to remove trees as necessary. Utility work-wise, in the water distribution system, we replace almost all of the water main because they're generally the older style. In street reconstruction, reclamation is more localized, just like hydrant replacement and that sort of thing. Both projects, we evaluate the sanitary sewer system, make repairs. With the project, storm sewer, we evaluate the drainage system. Sometimes we add catch basin, sometimes we extend storm sewer, but we improve the drainage system with the project, and then we do eventually replace the streetlights after we are there for streetlights that are in need of some improvement. So with that, I'll start working on the different areas and giving you some before and after photos. West Buck Hill reconstruction area, 16-101A, includes 155th Street from just east of Lucerne Circle up to Bryant Avenue, Fremont Avenue from 155th Street to south of 156th Street, 156th Street from Fremont Avenue to Kmart Lane, Kmart Lane from 155th Street to its cul-de-sac, and then Bryant Avenue from 155th Street from Bryant Avenue, from 155th Street to the north to its end, including the cul-de-sac. These are some before and after pictures. Fremont Avenue, 155th Street, 156th Street, Kymar Lane, Bryant Avenue. So obvious improvements in the area. West Buck Hill area reclamation, so the reconstruction area was right in here, and then this area is a bit newer, so we didn't have to do quite as much work. That included 158th Street from County Road 5 to Bryant Avenue, Forest Circle from Fremont Avenue to 158th Street, Fremont Court from Fremont Avenue to its cul-de-sac, Fremont Avenue from south of 156th Street to 158th Street, DuPont Avenue from 158th Street to Lakeville, Alpine Circle from 158th Street to Bryant Avenue, including the cul-de-sac, Chalet Court from 158th Street to its cul-de-sac, and then Bryant Avenue Court from Bryant Avenue to its cul-de-sac, and Bryant Avenue from 158th Street to 155th Street. So these streets were a little newer than the other ones, but still most definitely in need of the improvements. Fremont Avenue, DuPont Avenue, this is looking from Lakeville to the north, Hillaway Circle, Alpine Circle, Chalet Court. So this is a median that was in terrible condition. We've removed all of the material to make the neighbors able to spruce it up a bit. Right at this point, there's a tree they planted, and it's available now for making a lot of other improvements in the area. So we basically made it possible for them to really improve that island. Bryant Avenue Court, Bryant Avenue South, 158th Street, and then just a couple notes on West Buck Hill area. In the street reclamation area, the area to the south, that will have the final lift pavement, or final lift of pavement yet this year, later this month. Street reconstruction area, the area to the north, will wait till next year in case there's any settling problems that occur. A lot of the seeding area and the street reclamation area was just done, and September is the best month to get good growth, so we're happy with the timing there. Chateau Lynn area reconstruction includes 131st Street from Parkwood Drive to its cul-de-sac to the east, 14th Avenue from 131st Street down to Parkwood Drive, and then Chateau Lynn Lane from 14th Avenue to its easterly cul-de-sac. 131st Street before and after. This was taken the day after it was done, so they're still needing lots of work on the boulevards, as someone on the front there could attest to. 14th Avenue before and after, Chateau Lynn Lane before and after. And then the reclamation area is Parkwood Drive, or Aspen Drive from Parkwood Drive to 14th Avenue, including the cul-de-sac, and 14th Avenue from Aspen Drive down to 131st Street. This is Aspen Drive before and after, 14th Avenue before and after. So in this area, it's basically one day of paving to do both the reconstruction, reconstruction reclamation area. So the whole works is gonna get paved next year. They'll be restoring the turf, as I discussed, and raising utility structures up through that surface. So if we need to get access to them, we can have that during the winter. And I'd like to thank council member and others in the audience who dealt with this project through one of our wetter Augusts that we've had to deal with. So appreciate everyone's patience on managing the project. Highland Forest 3rd Edition area. This is more in the northwest part of town. Elm Circle from Upton Avenue to the cul-de-sac. Elm Lane from Upton Avenue down to Highland Drive. Let's see, Thomas Avenue from Elm Lane up to Brookview Drive. Thomas Circle from Thomas Avenue to the east. And then Brookview Drive from Upton Avenue to Penn Avenue. This one, I don't have any after photos. They're not pretty right now. I'll be the first to admit it. They were about halfway through the project, but the before pictures also aren't pretty. So just to give you an idea of why we were doing the project in the first place. Elm Lane, Thomas Avenue, Thomas Circle. So the schedule on this one, utility work is almost all done. Curb and driveway and roadway base construction will be placed. We'll be doing the first lift of pavement yet this year, and then having to raise the manholes and sod the area. That will all be done this year. Some will be done in September. It's entirely possible that pavement would be completed there in early October. And then 2017, we'll be doing the final lift paving. And this area, as challenging it was in Chateau Lynn, it's even more challenging here with all the rain we've gotten. And that's on an extremely steep hill if you've ever been down there. So it's right on the bluff area that goes down towards in the west part of town. So we, once again, just greatly appreciate all the patience by the residents that are either listening or out there. They've done a great job of dealing with it the best we can, and we are going to get after this once it quits, right? And it'll be cleaned up here nicely in just a little while. Wood Park area reclamation, 16-13A, 145th Street from Portland Avenue all the way to County Road 11, including the two cul-de-sacs, 146th Street from Park Avenue to County Road 11, 10th Avenue from 146th Street down to County Road 42, and then 144th Street from Park Avenue to 11th Avenue, and then 11th Avenue from 144th Street up to 143rd Street. So some before and after on this one. You can see they just reseeded there, so we should get some good grass growing up real quickly in this area. Before and after the cul-de-sac, 146th Street, 10th Avenue, 144th, 11th Avenue. So this one, we also expect to have the final lift paving in the next couple of weeks, and we talked about the seeding already in other areas. Maple Island Road reclamation from Crystal Lake Road down to the Lakeville border. This is before, obvious, a lot of need, and look at it now, much
nicer.
Incredible improvement. And this project, we've talked about a sightline issue we had out there. This is, if you look on the drawing, this is Maple Island Road that leads into the neighborhood, and this is Maple Island Road, frontage road, so it's a little difficult to just explain that. But we heard for years about how bad this sightline issue is, and we agreed with the residents who've complained. With this project, for a very cost-effective way of doing it, since we already had curb and pavement out there, what we did was extend out the curbs out to here, and that way you can see before the sight distance was there, and now you can see way back. I just have a couple photos to give you an idea of what that looks like. So here's if you stopped before, you're basically looking back at a tree, and then now you can see much further back there, and you can see how the curb jutted out.
Yeah.
It also narrows it up, so speeds should be reduced as people generally slow down as it narrows down. So we're pleased with the results of this particular modification as
Yeah.
well, so.
And we also received an email with a resident who was very happy with the new design.
Yeah, I believe she said that when her daughter was learning how to drive, it was just gun it. If you not see someone, just gun it and go. Now you can actually look and make a calculated
Yeah.
decision. So
Yeah.
we're very happy with the results of this. So, and then we didn't have to remove these trees. Removing these trees would have been very costly. So this was a much better way of going about it.
Yeah, it was a great decision.
Thank you. The funding for the project, it's a little more than $6 million to do the project. Assessments are a little bit more than $1 million of the total improvement funding. And then the revenue funds along with ITF make up the balance. The special assessments pay approximately 18% of the total project cost. Special assessments, what are they based on? They're based on 40% of the street costs, and what we do is use the past 3 years' average cost to complete a similar project. That gets us a rate of $1 based on dollar per foot set yearly. It's implemented by multiplying the footage of each parcel times that rate, and that gets you the assessment amount. Also, it's based upon the parcel's land use, so if you have a smaller, a more demanding use and with a narrower street, we reduce the rate down. There's reduction for corner lots and lots with large easements in residential zoning and land use. We confirm that assessments don't pay more than 40% of street costs, otherwise we'd reduce the rate down. Unfortunately, this year they did not go above 40%, so therefore they stayed the same. The remainder of all the rest of the costs are paid by the city. There is an additional assessment for new features. That one cul-de-sac, Elm Drive in the Highland Forest area had no curbs, so they will get a small add-on for that. And then the reasons for a little higher rates of reconstruction are because of the more extensive work. They're also, as we discussed, financing over a period of years for that, depending upon the amount. Those need to be paid with interest, and that's at 4% per year. I think you can see on the screen what the rates are for the different amounts. For our market cities, I talked to market cities that are close to us. We've spoken with 3 of them in the last couple of years. What do the other cities around us do that are similar in size? Egan is 75% of the street costs are assessed, where we're 40. Granted, they're doing a lot more resurfacing than reconstruction. Lakeville, they've had dealt with a lot of bad soil, so they're up at $8,100 per lot last year. Apple Valley, they are still chugging along without assessments and able to keep their program going that way. And Burnsville, for the 40%, is about $2,700 for street reconstruction, and that's about $1,600 or $1,700 on street reclamation. Objections, they need to be written and submitted by the end of the public hearing. There was one that was sent to you earlier in the day that was just objecting to the amount and challenges with that it's making for them. And we just got the second one in. I think you may have gotten it.
Yeah.
That appears to mostly be challenging the fact that we go dollar per foot on a foot rate as opposed to a unit. And it's not based upon the value of the property. It's just the value of the increase. So if you want more on that, maybe Joel can step in. If not, I think our recommendation would be, since it's based upon our policy, how we're doing it, that we may just move forward with the approval. Of course, the property owner may be here.
Yeah.
So if he's here, well, certainly we will listen to his testimony as well. Otherwise, let's see, it has to be in writing by the end of the hearing to be valid. If you want to pull and take some off for next time, you most certainly have the right to do that, and then we'd recommend approving the remainder of them.
Okay.
So with that, this is a public hearing. I stand for questions, and if you're here for the rehab or miscellaneous or streetscape, that is coming up.
Okay. Any questions for, yes, Councilmember Sherry?
Mr. Peterson, you said with the where there's been reconstruction, which is the street I live on, that will get the second lift of pavement after it settles over the winter. So what do you do? Do you look for places where the drain might be a drainage problem or, you know, that type of thing, and then you adjust for that? You make adjustments at that time?
Yeah, so we hope there's no settlement, but well, certainly, it's difficult for them sometimes to find every area of poor soil. So basically, what you'd end up seeing in general is cracked pavement.
Okay.
So it'd be like, it looked like it had aged 20 years in just one winter. And then what they do is they would go to the limits of that, actually cut out the pavement, dig out the gravel below it, put in dry compactable material. Then they would patch the asphalt back and then,
With the second.
and then put the second lift on. So we're hopeful we don't have that situation, but it's much better to do it prior to paving the second lift than before. Otherwise, you got to patch in your pavement right at the bat.
Well, thanks. You thanked us, but I also want to tell you that we really appreciated the hard work. I mean, this is terribly hard work, and fortunately, the sun was shining on our development where it was raining over on the west side of town, so. But nonetheless, I mean, it's really, really tough work, and the workers worked so hard. They really did.
My recollection was not, the sun was not shining the last council meeting. Because you tried to get here, I think you needed to ride. It was
That's true, I
so
did.
much rain so
That's right,
fast.
right.
That
Yeah,
was the
thanks, Bill.
3 inches in an
Yeah.
hour, that one.
Yeah, it
but
wasn't draining out.
I don't think any street in Burnsville was draining that particular evening.
Oh, I
but
forgot about
yeah.
that, you're right.
Okay. Mr. Peterson, for process, so that we can understand. So we're going to, what I'd like to do is open the public hearing and then go through Buck Hill, that project area, and then go down to Chateau Lynn Forest and so forth. So people who are speaking, so at least we all know which area they're speaking to. Does that work for you?
It works for me. Otherwise, you could
Yeah.
open it up for the entire.
For the,
for
yeah,
all-
I can, but I can open it up for the entire, but in terms of process.
Okay.
To move through it, because I'm going to open up the whole public hearing for
Sounds
this
good.
project.
Very good.
But at least you can pull up the project area.
Certainly.
So that people can see it, just like you did when you were going through all of that.
Very good.
So I will now open the public hearing for 2016 street reclamation and reconstruction improvement, 16-101 and 16-103. And this is the areas of West Buck Hill, Chateau Lynn, Highland Forest, Wood Park, and Maple Island Road. So this is a public hearing, and I'm opening the public hearing. Anyone who would like to speak to the West Buck Hill area? Yes, please come forward and give us your name and address, and you can pull up your West Buck
My
Hill.
plat map.
Yeah,
Thank you for the
yep, yeah.
opportunity. I pulled out the letter, which caught me a little bit off guard because, Jennifer Ragborg, 15408 Bryant Avenue South. I'm at the top of Buck Hill on a cul-de-sac, right across the street from the intermediate lift,
Yeah,
to help you know. Because it's a cul-de-sac, it's a pie-shaped lot, so I don't have a lot of frontage. And when I was here at the open hearing we had a few months ago,
Okay.
they were talking about, and I just saw it up there, we carry 40%, about $2,700 for a 95-foot frontage. Well, I've got about 53 frontage, and my bill is well over $3,100. So that's one thing, I guess I just thought, do I have to do a written objection? I'll be happy to do that, to have somebody come out and take a look. Because I also understand that we were supposed to get all new sewers and water mains and whatnot.
Yeah.
And when they looked at them, they said for 40 years old, they look pretty good. So we didn't get all that new stuff.
okay. And you were here at the open house and spoke to our staff?
I was here listening. I
Okay.
it was just more gathering information at that time.
Okay.
The other thing I'd like to at least bring up is it's a terrible time to have somebody come up with $3,000. It's right when property taxes are due, third quarter estimates. I mean, all of a sudden, it gets to be almost like a $10,000 a month, and that's not eating or driving the car. It's just, if it could be spread out. And I know you do the 15 years, but I
Yeah.
mean, there's so much leeway between boom and 15 years. That if it could even be
Okay.
put out over, a few months, something to not have to do everything in one big check.
Okay. Mr. Peterson, you want to have a conversation with our resident on this particular item?
Thank you.
Or tell us what we have, in the past, I think we had just worked with the installments that we have put in place.
Certainly, maybe I missed the address,
15408, Bryant.
1540.
It's on Bryant.
Yeah, the issue so the first comment was the size of the assessment.
Yes.
So basically in cul-de-sacs, everywhere, we push the assessment line back 40 feet.
Yeah.
And that typically standardizes someone who's on a straight line versus someone who's on a cul-de-sac. A lot of times those pie-shaped ones are smaller, and so that's how that goes. It appears that there's about 110 feet of frontage, which makes sense then for that amount. I don't believe there was a miscalculation or anything like that.
Okay.
That the discussion on replacement, we did replace all the curbs, all the street, and that was what the assessment is based on. The water main, maybe I'll ask Brian to come up and help me with
Yes.
this discussion. But, so, and then I'll address the repayment
Yes.
of, you either you have
Yeah.
30 days to pay it in full, or pay it, or it goes
the
onto your,
installment.
on your installment. But it's not like you have to go over 15 years once it's there. You can go over to Dakota County at any time.
And pay it off.
And pay it off.
Yeah.
So it's not, we don't take a partial payment at this time, but it's not like all of a sudden you can't pay it off in the future. And our interest is a simple interest, so you're
Yeah.
not gonna have to pay interest on 15 years. There's no prepayment penalty, I guess.
And I
is what I'm
think
saying.
that's what our resident needs to understand. And so if you can have some time to have a conversation and then also outline all of that, so she understands what the payment structure is.
Okay, maybe I'll turn over to Brian to quickly discuss replacement of utilities up at the top of Bryant Avenue.
Mr. Connolly?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Bryant Avenue basically from the intersection of 155th Street to the north, we had determined at the time of the original preliminary design that area, the street itself was in need of a reconstruction due to some subgrade issues in the street. However, after reviewing the utility conditions within that street, it was determined that both the water main and the sanitary sewer were in adequate condition. We replaced water main that's cast iron pipe, and this water main was determined to be one of the first generations of ductile iron pipe. And as such, we determined it wasn't necessary to replace the water main. However, we did decide to move forward with the full street reconstruction, including all new curbs, both because the curbs were substandard, they didn't meet the current standards, as well as because of the aforementioned subgrade issues.
Okay. Councilmember Sherry?
Well, I just wanted to be sure I understand, the utility work, the water and the sewer are not charged to the homeowner anyway, right?
That is correct.
That's-
It is
yeah.
paid through the utility funds.
Utility fund, yeah. Yeah, so those are, and I think that's what our residents need to understand. So, because when you look at the assessment is only for the reconstruction or the reclamation. The sewer and water is paid off through those utility funds as well as the stormwater utility. So that's not on their bill. Yeah,
I'm
yes.
100% positive you folks do not want us replacing utilities we don't need to.
No.
And the
Yeah,
residents.
but the thing is, it's not on her bill because I think that's a misunderstanding.
It's not part of the street
Yeah.
construction, and that's the only
Yeah.
thing that's part of assessments.
Okay, very good. Thank you. They'll sit down and talk with you and look at how that payment structure is. Okay, very good, thank you. Anybody else who wishes to address the council on the West Buck Hill area? Okay, we'll move on to Chateau Lynn. Anyone who wishes to speak about the Chateau Lynn area project? Chateau Lynn. Highland Forest. Anyone who wishes to speak on Highland Forest? Wood Park. Yes, please come forward and give us your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Don Ackerman. I live at 14401 Park Avenue South. I'm affected by the Wood Park project.
Yep.
Project 16103A. The only thing that I would like to, the work is beautiful, great job. The only thing I would like to talk about is the entire amount being due within 30 days. I agree that the timing is also a little unfortunate with back to school. And the letter says there is partial payments have not been authorized, and you can either pay the full amount, which actually is pretty much near my mortgage payment, or I can take it over 10 years at 4%. To me, those seem like two pretty good extremes. I'll give you 45 days to pay basically an extra mortgage payment, or you can pay 4% over 10 years. I think there ought to be some, when the bid is made, I think it'd be fair to let homeowners know the kind of bill coming, because I do not know how much a road construction project costs. I have no idea. So to have an idea that that's coming, I could save up for it. And I think other residents could do the same. And also, if there's an option to do a partial payment, or at least mention in your letter that you can pay it off, that would be very
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay.
Because it sounds like
Yeah.
all or 10
Or-
years.
yeah.
And that seems pretty extreme to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Especially right now, when the bid comes in, you could let us know that you're getting a significant bill, because I have no idea.
Okay.
And I also don't know how many people are dividing this cost. So it's hard for me to gauge that. So if you consider that, I'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Keely, and then just,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just had a question. I think it's a great idea. What latitude do we have under
I
state
th-
statute and notices to give estimates or provide early information and different options as he has requested?
As early as January, we send out
Yep.
our neighborhood meetings.
Yes.
That does show the
Show,
assessment
yep.
rates. Obviously, each one's different because we go by the per foot. We
Yep.
certainly are available for calls at any time. So the assessment is known. We know the maximum assessment as early as January because we don't go above what the past
Yeah.
3 years' average was. It could go down. So it's fairly rarely available what the maximum amount would be available.
Yeah.
And then we're not gonna wanna send out additional letters in front of this one for assessment specifically. But, we can most certainly review the letter to say, you can pay it off at any time at Dakota County, if that would be, that might be
Yeah.
our number one way. Cause
Yeah.
it's not fair to say that there is no knowledge that there may be an
Yeah.
assessment coming, but it is fair definitely to say that you don't know the exact amount and that you unaware that maybe you'd be able
yeah.
to.
And usually, did you attend the meeting?
No, I did not.
Okay, because usually a lot of that information comes out because it's a one-on-one with staff and they show everything. But I think your suggestion with regard to, you can either take the installment and go the 10 years or pay it off. And
Yeah.
I think our staff will work with you on
And what I
that.
want to add is, with multiple communications, that this is not the first letter I've ever received from the city. So I think as each communication occurs, I think you can share what you know at that time. So in other words, if you're saying there's going to be this hearing, you could say, we expect this amount to be in your neighborhood, and you could give a range. And that would allow people to understand what's coming. This is the
Okay.
first time I've run into this, I had no idea.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Yes, and hopefully that your street won't be reconstructed in the next 30 years.
Yeah, thanks for that good idea.
Yeah, okay. Councilmember Coughlin?
I don't think the public is clear yet. Why don't you re-explain about going to Dakota County and paying it off? Why don't you give an example?
Okay, so you've obviously received your letter now.
I got mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I did, and I paid mine.
Okay, so you've received your letter now, and in it, you says you basically have 30 days to pay it in full, otherwise without interest. So then we are taking checks. In fact, Molly in our office has got mini checks already before they're even levied. So, and then we accept them, somewhere to mid-October. And then at that point, we start where we bring the information down to Dakota County, those who haven't paid, so that way they can get it onto the first property taxes in May. And basically, at any time, you can go down to Dakota County, the courthouse or the government center, and to the assessment area, and then pay that off in full there.
Councilmember Coughlin?
And just to be clear then, so if in 6 months you want to pay it off, you could go pay it off, you would incur a 4% on that amount, so you're not prohibited.
I know that now, but the letter does not.
Right. So I just want for anyone else to know.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Keely?
Oh, I just wanted to, I think I was going to say the same thing as Councilmember Coughlin, but I think it was a great idea. I think we need to be more transparent in what's coming, and it would help to plan. And I do agree, 30 days or 10 years is just two options that are pretty extreme. I wasn't even aware that you could go down to Dakota County once it did get assessed and pay it off at any time, so it's good information for everybody.
Right.
Great. All right, now, Maple Island Road. Anyone who wishes to address the council on Maple Island Road? Maple Island Road. Okay. Mr. Peterson, I think with that, I'm going to close the public hearing on this project, on the reconstruction and reclamation on all of these areas. So I will now close the public hearing, and we heard from two of our residents, and you will speak with them and then also let them know that, you know, the first payment isn't due until later on, but they can also, I think it's, first payment is due in January, or?
No, it's
No.
with the May. Yep, that's
Okay.
exactly right.
And then they can save up to, and then they can pay it off, or else they can go for 2 months or 6 months or whatever, and then pay it off.
Correct.
Yes.
They're the same as us, so it has
That's
to be
right.
in full once
Yeah.
you want to pay the full
Yeah.
payment.
Okay, very good. I will now close the public hearing on the reconstruction and reclamation project. Members of the council, yes, Mr. Peterson?
So just remember, we got the 2 objections. So
Yes.
Our recommendation is to.
To move forward.
Move forward with
Yes.
them, and obviously, the instructions are in the back, and if they would like to take it to district court, that's most certainly their option.
Yes.
They'll have 30 days to do so.
Yeah,
after
members of the council, we saw those objections, and so this is no different from the things that we have done in the past. And the policy that we have in place has been, it's been since 1992, if I remember correctly.
Yep, 1990 maybe?
Yeah,
Yep.
and so, we've been operating in that regard for all these years. So, members of the council, your pleasure.
Motion to approve.
Okay. Councilmember Coughlin makes the motion to adopt the resolution and certify the assessments for 2016 street reconstruction and reclamation improvements, and second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. The next one is item 11, and this too is a public hearing, and this is the resolution certifying assessments for 2016 street rehabilitation improvement, 16-102. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you very much. This presentation will be much shorter. 16 street rehabilitation, 16-102B is 150th Street, and 16-102C is Portland Avenue. You may ask, where did 16-102A go? That was going to be considered for Judicial Road, actually over by UTC that we discussed. However, they're going to be planning a trail, so we decided that might affect that road, so we decided to move that one out. What is street rehabilitation? That's milling the road surface, removing distressed pavement areas, and then resurfacing it. So basically, it's resurfacing, and then we also replace broken concrete curbs and sidewalks and make American Disability Act improvements as necessary. Typically, utility repairs are relatively small. On 150th Street, we actually relocated a water main pressure reducing station from County Road 5 actually into 150th Street for operations improvements. It did require the closure of 150th Street at County Road 5. Things seem to go quite well with that. The project area maps, 150th Street was from County Road 5 to Greenhaven Drive. As you can see, the roads are not in as poor shape as the ones in reconstruction and reclamation, but we want to get to them on these more major streets before they get to that point. So there's the before and after, and then once again, before and after. And then Portland Avenue from Highway 13 down to Burnsville Parkway. That's before and after, and then before and after. So we got to it just in time on that one, there's no doubt about it. The total cost, about $660,000, of which assessments make up $80,000 of that total. The remaining costs are from the revenue funds and our state aid account on those, as those are on our state aid system. Assessments make up 12% of the total project cost. Similarly to recon and reclamation, assessments are based on 40% of the street costs. We use the past 3 years' average costs to develop a rate, $1 per foot, that we set each year. And then once again, you multiply the amount of footage you have adjacent to that street to figure out what the assessment amount is. Once again, it's based upon the same it's based upon the land use of the parcel. So if you have a parcel that sits on a narrow street, even though it requires a bigger street, we reduce the rate to recognize that. We once again review the total cost once we get it, make sure that it's not more than 40%. Once again, assessments do not pay more than 40% of street costs, so it stayed the same. The remaining costs are all paid by city taxes or revenue funds. On rehabilitation, there are some other caveats with single-family homes. Single-family and 2 properties, homes that have access to other streets are exempt from rehabilitation. And the reason for that is they will get a much larger assessment when we do the street reconstruction of those, the assessments that we were just talking about. And also our residential overlay program is not assessed. So if you're not having to pay for the resurfacing in front of the house to do that out to your side yard or backyard. It doesn't seem right, and the reason why we do on the other multifamily, commercial, industrial, those are usually adjacent to more of the collector, larger types of streets, and they generate more of the traffic, so they generally don't get the larger assessments for rehabilitation, but, or for reconstruction, but have to pay for rehabilitation. Once again, that the repayment terms are the same. If they're not paid in full, it can be done over a period of years, and we just discussed you can pay those off earlier if you like to. The rates are $12.17 for single-family land use per foot, and then $15.24 a foot for multifamily and manufactured, and then $19.57 for all of the land uses. I should go back. If your driveway's out to, if you're a single-family home and your driveway goes out to that street, and that's the only one that it goes out to, you will still be assessed for this, so you are having to pay your fair share on the road that you gain access to if that's your one. We haven't had any written objections on this project. Council may continue if we do get them at the public hearing. Otherwise, we recommend approving the remainder of the assessments, and they would, if there are any continued, they'd be at the next council meeting. With that, this is a public hearing, and I'd stand for any questions. And if you're here for Heart of the City operations and maintenance or miscellaneous, those are coming up.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Peterson? Thank you, Mr. Peterson. This is a public hearing. I will now open a public hearing, and this is for 2016 rehabilitation project, 150th and Portland, so they're much smaller. Ma'am, did you want to speak? Yes. Please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Linda Stout, and I live at 15,000 Windermere Drive, or Lane, excuse me, in Burnsville. And I've known about this since January. I came to the meeting, and there was something that had bothered me about this, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. I don't live, I back up to 150th Street, and I live in the Windermere townhomes. And so anyway, I kind of just recently came to the conclusion that I don't live in a neighborhood. I don't live in a little neighborhood that has a little neighborhood street that I can have a conversation with my neighbor without having to yell over the noise of the traffic. I live on a major, well, not a major, but I live on an artery road. And I back up to that artery road. I don't have a driveway that goes out there. And, you know, I wouldn't mind paying anything if I lived in a neighborhood that had a neighborhood street that only neighbors drove on. But this street, 150th Street, has semis and Coors beer trucks with the glass bottles that rattle every time they go over the, you know, the manhole covers. And I'm a little bit bothered that I have to pay anything at all to live on this artery. I wouldn't mind paying if I lived in a little neighborhood. And I guess that's my big problem. My neighborhood has a lot of crime in it, and we just were vandalized 2 nights ago. And there's a lot of problems with that neighborhood. And I don't, you know, I live, like I said, I live on my back up to 150th Street. I haven't even been on the new part of the street yet. I don't drive on that street. I go the other way most of the time.
So you take Greenhaven?
I take Greenhaven, I turn right on 150th Street. 90% of the time, I'd say. I mean, I hardly ever go the other way. You know, and if I were to live in a neighborhood, I would use that street every day. And it would be a big difference.
Okay.
And I guess that's what I'm bothered about. And I needed to talk and tell you about it. And I think, you know, other people feel that way too, and they just don't have the time or the energy to come here and talk to you about it.
Thank you, Ms. Stout.
Sure.
And absolutely, we understand your concern, but we live in a community, in a city where everyone drives in all the streets, and probably not you drive on streets there, it's not within your neighborhood, but you get from point A to point B.
Right.
And those streets are traveled by all of us. So for your assessment, the majority of it is paid for by state municipal aid. So it's a very small amount
Yes,
that
it is.
allows us to all be a community and everybody pays something for it. And I understand that you would much rather have a neighborhood street, but everybody else in the community pays.
If Greenhaven is redone, I'm going to be charged for that too.
Yes, because now everybody pays a little bit of everything for everything.
Right.
Yes. And that's a policy that we have, and it's fair and equitable throughout our whole city.
I think being on an arterial road, though, is a little different than being
Yeah.
on a neighborhood road. So that's my opinion, and that's
Okay.
all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Stout. Thank you for coming before us. Mr. Peterson?
Just, our assessments are based on 40% assessment,
Yeah.
60% whole city, so we certainly are recognizing the fact that there's other traffic there.
Yeah.
And it's that the frontage of the entire
Yeah.
community, so all the assessments in Windermere are all spread equally.
Yeah.
And I guess we are considering Greenhaven Drive for resurfacing or rehabilitation next year, so it is possible that we would get there,
Yeah.
so.
And we have a lot of these neighborhood communities, townhome communities, HOAs, and in the past, they all have paid their fair share, especially on, I just remember not too long ago, I think it was McAndrews Road on the west side, going through, and they paid for.
Could have been
Yeah.
Parkwood Drive or whatever.
Yeah, and so there were, and that's right, we had Parkwood Drive not
Yeah.
too long ago also. So it's not that this is treated differently from all of the others. Okay, very good. Anyone else who wishes to address the council on rehabilitation improvements on 150th and Portland? Anyone else? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Sherry makes the motion, second by Councilmember Coughlin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. The next one is also a public hearing, and this is the resolution to certify assessments for the heart of the city area operations and maintenance, including the Burnsville Parkway and Nicollet Avenue. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you very much. You said it all. There's two different areas. There's the heart of the city and the Burnsville Parkway, Nicollet Avenue streetscape projects. There is two phases, as there's different levels of enhancement in the areas. One has more of the hanging baskets and that kind of thing and colored concrete. The other area still has some enhancements, but not to the same degree. That's how you get the two different rates. The total assessment is $130,400 for the whole area. The streets affected by it are Travelers Trail from Nicollet Avenue to east of Eagle Ridge Drive, First Avenue from the Cub Foods entrance to south of 125th Street, 125th Street from Nicollet Avenue to Burnsville Parkway, Burnsville Parkway from Nicollet Avenue to east of 125th Street, 126th Street from Nicollet Avenue to Pillsbury Drive, and then Pillsbury Drive behind the Ames Center. That's the heart of the city area. And then Nicollet Avenue and Burnsville Parkway, that's the other district, although they're very much tied together, includes Burnsville Parkway from Aldrich Avenue to Nicollet Avenue, and then Nicollet Avenue from Trunk Highway 13 down to 134th Street. How are they figured? They're actually based on actual costs that the city has. It's about a 50-50 split with our cost of the assessments and then other city funds that go and make this area the way it looks so nice. It's implemented by, we set a rate based upon the amount necessary, or the amount that is actual spent, and then it's implemented by the amount of footage adjacent. So we get a rate, dollar per foot, multiply it by the amount of footage. And then there's a lot of multiple owner parcels in this area, so then, once again, those are all spread equally. If there's 50 units, they're all assessed 1/50th of the total cost for that building. We haven't received any written objections. They need to be in writing by the end of the public hearing to be valid. Council may continue the hearing if they would choose to, or for individual assessments. We recommend approving the remainder, and continued assessments would be heard at the next council meeting. With that, I'd stand for any questions in the public hearing.
Any questions for Mr. Peterson? We've been doing this since 2004. I will now open a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to address the council on this item? Anyone who wishes to address the council on this item? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Councilmember Nguyen makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. We are at item number 13. Item number 13 is a resolution certifying assessments for miscellaneous assessments. Mr. Peterson.
All right, last one. The miscellaneous assessments are for various things, as miscellaneous would suggest. One of them is for public improvements or development fees, such as park dedication and trunk storm sewer. If a developer wants to spread it over a period of years, we do work with them on that. Other ones are unpaid costs associated with false alarm responses by public safety. And then also I'd note that code enforcement is not part of this. That will be at the next assessment or the next council meeting. If you want to know what particular items make up the amount, almost all of it is from the park dedication storm sewer, and that was for the Green Horizons building at Cliff Road and River Ridge Boulevard. Otherwise, the amounts for false alarm responses are $43.80 and driveway aprons on our street projects of $6,400 if they want to do more than what we were going to put back, for a total of just under $113,800. Once again, if you want to object, it needs to be written and submitted by the end of this public hearing. You could continue one or two items if you chose and approve the rest of them. This is a public hearing. I stand for any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Peterson? Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wishes to address the council on these items? Anyone who wishes to address the council on these items? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Motion to approve the special assessments.
Councilmember Keeley makes the motion.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Sherry. Coughlin, I'm sorry. Councilmember Coughlin made the motion. Second by Councilmember Sherry. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We go-
Now you can catch your breath.
There we go.
Yes, very good. We're at item number 14. Item number 14 is a resolution establishing the proposed budget, the 2017 proposed tax levy, and the authorize the cancellation of certain deferred tax levies. And presenting is Ms. Kelly Stray, our Finance Director. Ms. Stray, good evening.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, council members. Tonight, we are in the mid of process of the budget. This budget is a 6-month process, as you know, which began in June with some preliminary estimates. In August, the council discussed direction for the max tax, which will be considered tonight. The process moves on to detailed proposed budget in October and November, and will finally be considered for adoption December 6th. Tonight, you'll have 2 resolutions. The first is the city council approval of the proposed maximum tax levy for the city of Burnsville. And the second will be the Economic Development Authority approval, and then the city council also approves after the Economic Development Authority approves. This is the max tax that is adopted tonight. It's what the county uses to send their proposed property tax statements to residents in November. You can go down from the max tax, but you may not go higher than the max tax at the final. At the August 8th council work session, the proposed maximum tax levy was discussed. At that meeting, staff presented preliminary projections of anticipated cost increases for delivering current services, projected revenue changes, and planned increases to the council's adopted plans for capital funds and for the city's special revenue funds. At that meeting, we talked about a 3.6 total increase in the max tax. And of that increase, about 2.7% is for increase in costs to deliver services at the current level. Capital plan increases of 0.8% are proposed for the city's capital replacement plans, both for the infrastructure trust fund and the equipment and vehicle facilities funds. The council's adopted plans are consistent with the 2016 budget process. The 2016 plan for the city's forestry fund called for a $50,000 increase to fund the adopted plan for the emerald ash borer treatment plan. At that time, in August, staff said that we could, fund levels would be sufficient to cover the plan as it is without that increase, so we did remove that from this maximum tax levy. At the August meeting, the council received a presentation on the facilities plan from staff and the city's consultant, Wold and Associates. And council discussed several options for proceeding with phase 1 of the facilities improvement plan. Staff was directed to bring back a max tax with an option to include funding for increasing phase 1 of the project to move the police garage addition of $2.5 million up by 5 years to phase 1 from phase 2. The replacement of a generator, $500,000, moving from later in phase 1 to earlier in phase 1. And finally, also an addition of $700,000 to replace an air handling system that has been identified as an additional need in the plan. Staff has researched several financing options for the changes in the phased approach to the plan, and we're happy to say we can revise the timing of the issuance of the bonds and increase the use of cash funding from existing facilities levy and the new franchise fees, which will eliminate the need for an increase in the levy for the facilities plan for 2017. I have a few upcoming slides with some details with respect to that. I wanted to update you on the estimated impact of a 3.6% levy increase on the residential average home. We have an average home this year of $222,000. That is a growth in value of about 3.4%. This is the hypothetical, typical average home. We get that valuation from the county. And then we also project what it would be on a $1 million commercial property. And when we talked in August, we didn't have final fiscal disparities numbers. And Burnsville has long been a contributor to the Metro-wide fiscal disparities program. And we still remain a contributor, but this year we actually are less of a contributor than we have been. Other cities have grown the pool faster than the additions that we've made. So that has had a positive effect on our tax increase for this year on an average home. So I believe we said $36 per year for an average home. It's more like $24. And then a commercial property will actually see $132 decrease in their property tax bill for that hypothetical $1 million property. So I wanted to spend some time tonight just talking about how did we get from being able to do the facilities plan additions to phase 1, a large amount of additions, and still be able to stay within our 3.6%. In February, the council had implemented franchise fees. That was during the 2016 budget process that you had directed staff to pursue that in 2016. It was not built into the 2016 budget. So when that was implemented and they began in July of 2016, the plan was to use that to provide cash funding to reduce phase 1 bonding. Pardon me. And it was also planned to replace the increases to the facility levy that were planned in 2016 for future years. So in the 2016 budget, we had planned an increase for 2017 of $420,000, and in 2018, $125,000 to fund debt service on phase one. Franchise fees are expected to generate somewhere between $800 to $1 million per year. So that does exceed the amount that we had previously planned as a tax increase for the facilities plan. So the balance was planned to provide cash for phase two to reduce the amount bonded for phase two. So that franchise fee would accumulate to provide in 5 years when phase two goes, more of a cash funding. So this is what the debt service for the 2016 phase plan looked like. We had the first 5 years with a lower, approaching $1 million of debt service. It was like 960. And then in 5 years, we would issue bonds and have some cash funding for phase two. We would still have the bonds outstanding for phase one and then add phase two. So, and then those, as those get paid off, then phase three would be added on, and then phase two drops off. So that's the sort of the peaks in this plan. The green line represents how much franchise fees and tax levy would be generated annually if it all stayed level. So you can see in the first years, we have more franchise fee and tax levy in the facilities fund. That would be built up to provide cash for phase two. And then there would be a need for an increase of some sort as phase two comes online. So we added the air handling, as I mentioned, the police garage, which was a move from phase two, the generator, which was moved from 2019. We are using 2016 and 2017 revenues as cash funding for the project to reduce bonding. And then we are able to delay the first payment of the bonds to 2018. So instead of using 2017 revenues to pay a debt service payment, we're using it to buy down the balance. And we can do that because the project is a few months delayed in starting. So we're able to just delay that and have it as a normal payment the following year. And then the other thing that we did was took a look at 15-year versus 10-year debt to level the debt service. And with the 3 phases, the 15-year really fit the projects better than the 10-year. You had less overlap in the projects. So the blue bars are the bars from the previous chart that you saw. That's what the original plan was. With the new plan, the yellow bars would be 15-year bonds over that period of time. We would have more front end on the project and using more cash. We're able to stay below that green line of franchise fees and tax levy, existing tax levy. General facilities maintenance and deferred maintenance needs that were identified in that plan, and then just our regular maintenance and replacement that is included in the facilities fund. Those are continued to be funded pay-go basis using the planned general fund transfer. And we can use some use of franchise fees there, but this continues the general fund transfer that we have been doing in the past at a flat level. We had in last year's 2016 budget some increases built in for that, but with this plan, we were able to take that out, so that does also reduce future planned tax rate increases. Without the project additions, it would be possible to reduce the maintenance use of general fund transfer and replace that with franchise fees. That would reduce the tax levy by 1%. So that's the option that you would be giving up if you choose to continue in the other proposed that we were proposing. The generator that was originally planned for use for 2019 had planned for general fund use of $500,000. That's consistent with what we've done with generators in the past. We've kind of called those one-time expenditures and used general fund balance. We're now building that into the project and preserving general fund balance for other one-time uses. As we looked at this, we also wanted to consider total debt balance management so that we're not increasing total debt significantly. This does increase total debt, but we were trying to level that. The garage was planned for phase 2, moved to phase 1. That is basically a timing move. So over the 20 years, there would be, it's the same amount. PFA loan in the utility fund, one of our other planned for 2016 items. That principal balance is lower than it was projected, so that does help offset some of this. We are also, as we always do, look at debt service, cash balances, and options for using future utility CIP bonding to make sure that we're at the right level there. So we review that to look at options for lowering future debt balances. And then we're always looking at refunding opportunities of the existing bonds that the city has outstanding that are become callable during the year. So with all of that said, these are the balances that we're looking at for a total levy for max tax for 2017 budget. We are looking at a total city levy of $31,264,211, which is a $1,124,000 increase, or 3.5%. The Economic Development Authority, we have always looked at together with the city because you do have control over that one as well. So that is a $617,500 levy for 2017, which is an increase of $25,000. That also is consistent with the plans that you've had over the years. So that is a 0.1% increase. So with that together, that it comes to the 3.6% increase. And you have three actions tonight. Consideration of the city levy resolution. The EDA meeting then will be called and to approve the EDA resolution and then return to the city council meeting.
For the ratification.
For the ratification of the EDA levy. So with that, I stand for questions.
Any questions for Ms. Dry? Councilmember Keating.
Well, I want to compliment Ms. Dry and staff. We had a fairly rigorous debate and a good one and a healthy one at our work session. And your charts, I think I counted 6 or 7 wins and we gave up nothing and we gained just on every front. And so utilizing all the tools available, I think this is one of the best decisions that I've been involved in a long time, and it looks like we've done it right. So thank you very much for the hard work.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Ms. Dry, thank you to you and Ms. Hardy and the team that worked on this, because you came in at 3.6 and you were able to look at, and I know that you've done many of these budgets, so more than 21 years, even when Les was here. So you've also gone through a whole lot of different activities, whether it was the Heart of the City or the ICE Center or the Ames Center, all of those, and we have soldiered through, great pathway forward with all of it, and with every one of those actions, we came from a AA to a AA plus to a AAA to a double AAA, so thank you, because it was there, and it was there in your work session presentation as well. So, and we also have some reserve funds. So, thank you. Thank you very much. Councilmember Sherry.
Yes, I want to thank you too, Ms. Stry. I think that you've done a wonderful job in carrying out the direction that came out of the work session. I do want to, because this is important for the comments that I want to make, I want to remind people that I was not part of the simple majority that asked you to do this, because I believe that the initial plan was a balanced plan, and I think that it was very wise, very carefully thought out, and I still think that way. I want to point out a couple of things that just remind things that you said here, and that is, instead of a payment over 10 years, now we're stretching it out for 15 years. I think that people who are watching and listening understand what that means, is that you're just making more payments. And I understand, Council, or that interest rates are low. Nonetheless, that does, in my opinion, impact the city, the finances coming down the line. I think that to revise the timing of this was well done. I mean, I think that you slowed it down, you, not just the stretching it over from 10 to 15 years, but by building up more cash. I think that was very wise. But I also want to point out something that you said, and I want to emphasize this, and that is, were it not for this plan, we could be looking at a 2.6 increase rather than a 3.6. So I thank you for your work, but I still hold true to what I had said at the last work session.
Any other comments? Councilmember Keeley.
Well, I want to compliment Councilmember Sherry, because one of the things I remember her saying at our work session that it kind of went without saying for me, but I was very pleased. She was very adamant that we stay at 3.6 with this proposed work that you hadn't performed yet, and you're able to do that. So very good work. I mean, that was the ideal goal, and you hit the ideal goal. Everyone would like to finance capital investments and assets, especially 30-year assets, over as short a time as possible. I mean, we all try and shrink our mortgages from 30 to 15 years if we can afford it, even shorter. I mean, that's certainly ideal. Borrowing costs are extraordinarily low for us because we've made the hard decisions. Some of those hard decisions in the past have reduced our manpower. And there are fewer people working in City Hall as a result of that. But those are the decisions that put us in that AAA bond rating, especially through a very bad time. And so we're not afraid of making very hard decisions. Those bear fruit. One of those fruit is very inexpensive borrowing rates. So I have no problem going to 15-year on an asset that's going to be there for 30-plus years. We're going to, paying it off in 15 is actually ideal, because I think 20 years is not unusual. Councilmember Sherry, you made a very good point about, but for this. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. I'm pretty transparent about my position about wanting lower taxes. Had we not gone through this exercise, however, we'd still be at 3.6. But our police department would not get their garage for another 5 years, and we'd still be at 3.6. The whole reason that we went through this exercise is that we had that debate at the work session, and we asked for the garage to be a part of it, but not go over 3.6. And you achieved that, as I said, so fantastic work. So just one final comment. Our police department has heard 5 to 10 years for over 30 years. We heard from our former police chief that was discussed when this facility was being planned to be built. 5 to 10 more years, it's in the plan, you're going to get your covered garage. Today, the challenges are law enforcement face and our future challenges they will face demands an investment in a secure and safe garage. We've covered our trucks, our plows. We've even covered our salt and sand inside a building. But we haven't yet covered our law enforcement patrol cars. It's high time, we're actually past that time, to cover our police squads and provide that safe and secure environment for our troops to begin and end their shifts. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Sherry.
I would just like to add one more thing. I meant to mention this earlier, and that is, when I had complimented staff and about presenting a balanced plan, which we all voted on last December. Something that really concerns me here is the fact that suddenly something came up, and now we found a way to do it, which is really great. I'm not going to be here when the next thing comes up. And so, and I shouldn't be looking at you, Ms. Stride, because it's not your problem. But how, in this long-range plan, which we really need to make significant investments in these facilities, which, by the way, we all know should have been made about 10 years ago. And they weren't made. So we need to do this, and are we going to do it just because something pops up here and something pops up there, and then suddenly we're going to ask staff to figure out and work some magic of finding ways to finance this? That is a huge concern for me. And it is a concern that will concern me after I leave council. And I think it should concern all the residents of Burnsville.
Any other comments? Seeing none, members of the council, your pleasure.
Enthusiastically move to approve the 3.6
Okay.
tax.
Okay. May I have is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember Nguyen makes this, seconds the motion made by Councilmember Keely. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
I abstain.
And one abstention. Thank you
Madam
very much. Yes.
A follow-up comment. This is just for me personally. As a result of this, ultimately, what we've done is gotten our base tax for existing taxpayers, when you factor out the roughly 0.5% of new money, within 0.2% of my 2% goal.
Yeah.
Outside of the investment in the garage, which
Yeah.
I would vote for any day. So, thank you, staff. Ultimately, after all this, we're that close, closer than we've ever been, to a 2% increase on existing taxpayers for our core budget.
Yeah.
Aside from our investment in the police.
Yeah, the thing is, we also need to understand that there's new money with the franchise fees.
Right.
There's new money coming in, and so the thing is, moving forward, there is new revenue. So for our residents to understand, there is new revenue, and we will also, one of the things we will do is to make sure that that revenue is dedicated to facilities, just like we do the ITF, and we'll have a resolution to codify that. And I think we can have our attorney, and we worked through that when we had the ITF, and we'll do the same thing also. So that will come up, and we'll make sure that that moves forward, and that will that will be codified. And the thing is, these are things that continue to pop up throughout. We're now going to be looking at a parks plan that hasn't been done since 2000, but we just approved a parks plan in the consent agenda. So many things, and the facilities plan, and all of those things. So, Councilmember Coughlin, did you want to add anything else?
Thank you for clarifying that. This is new money.
Yes.
Raised out of franchise fees. It wasn't a redo of the budget.
Yeah.
And the franchise fee amount came in higher than was expected. So
Yeah.
I just want the public clear that
Yeah.
there is new money coming into this
Yeah.
from franchise fees.
And so we'll move forward. Okay, now, I am going to recess the Burnsville City Council meeting so the Economic Development Authority meeting can proceed. President Keely.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll now open the Burnsville Economic Development Authority. Note the record, all of our commissioners are present for tonight's meeting. There is a note here for a Pledge of Allegiance. Since we have done that, I don't see the need to do it again, although I'd be happy to, and I'm sure everyone would. Are there any additions to our final agenda in front of us? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Approval of minutes from our March 8th. If everyone remembers that, I had to read the notes to remember what we did. It's been 6 months since we met. Any comments about our minutes?
Move to
Entertain a motion to approve.
So
Motion
moved.
by Commissioner Couts,
Second.
second by Commissioner Coughlin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And on to our regular agenda. Resolution authorizing the proposed levy of a special benefit levy pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 469.033, Subdivision 6, and approval of a proposed budget for fiscal year 2017. We are again very blessed to have Ms. Kelly Stry presenting.
And this will be a shorter presentation. The total maximum levy proposed for the EDA is $617,500. That's a $25,000 increase, and that's consistent with what you've done over the past several years, since 2010. And it represents a 0.1% increase in the total city EDA combined levy. Stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Stry. Any questions about our EDA levy? I see shaking heads, no. Oh, one?
Nope,
Oh.
just gonna move to approve.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Sherry,
Second.
second by Commissioner Coughlin. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Same sign. Thank you, Ms. Stry. We have nothing on our miscellaneous agenda. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Commissioner Coughlin, second by Commissioner Sherry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we close the Economic Development Authority meeting, and Madam Mayor, return it back to you to open up the city council meeting.
Thank you. I will now reconvene the Burnsville City Council meeting, and the last item on our agenda for this evening is number 16. This is a resolution approving a proposed tax levy by the Burnsville Economic Development Authority for taxes payable 2017, and our action is to ratify the action that the EDA just made. Members of the council, I don't think Ms. Stry needs to go over that presentation
That was
again,
quick.
unless she wants to, but your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Second.
Councilmember Keely makes the motion, second by Councilmember Nguyen. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Members of the council, there are no other items to come before us this evening. Ms. Stry, did you want to reiterate the upcoming meetings for the budget?
We usually just finalize with the next meetings. There is a department budget presentation, which takes
Yep.
up an entire work session, October 25th, where you hear from the departments about their use, how they use their budgets and the challenges that they have. And then November 15th, you discuss the general property tax fund. So generally, the general fund and anything with property tax supported. And November 29th work session, we talk mostly CIP, utility funds, enterprise funds. And then December 6th, finally, adoption of the 2017 budget and levy. And the public is always invited to attend and would have the opportunity to speak at any of those meetings.
Thank you, Ms. Stry.
Thank you.
Members of the council, there are no other items, and a motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Councilmember Keely makes a motion, second by Councilmember Coughlin. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And we stand adjourned. And thank you so much for being with us. Have a good night.
Thank you.